Mark Broom, let's dive straight into the day's headlines. Coming home in style, South Korea is looking to send a presidential jet to pick up the 14 South Koreans stuck on the coronavirus-hit Diamond Princess cruise ship that stuck off a port in Japan. Every scenario on the table. The WHO says it's too early to say whether the coronavirus is slowing down in China. This as Chinese health authorities claim fewer people are becoming infected in the country. Plus, the floor leader of South Korea's ruling party is said to address the National Assembly, encouraging lawmakers to back legislation to fight the coronavirus is likely to be the focus of his speech. Our top story this morning, South Korea will send a presidential jet to repatriate its nationals who are stranded on the Diamond Princess cruise ship that stopped off the Japanese port city of Yokohama. Seoul says it's still in talks with Tokyo over the evacuation plan, but reports say the repatriation could take place as early as today. There are 14 South Koreans on the cruise ship, 9 passengers and 5 crew members. None of them are known to be infected with the coronavirus. The reported death toll from the coronavirus outbreak in mainland China has reached 1,800 as of Monday, while the number of confirmed cases has surpassed 72,000. China's state-run CCTV reported Tuesday the death toll in Hubei province, the center of the outbreak, increased by 93 on Monday, while the number of confirmed cases there increased by 1,807. Among the confirmed cases in Hubei, nearly 11,000 are in critical condition. The latest COVID-19 numbers provided by the Chinese government show there has been a gradual decline in the number of new cases in China. However, the WHO remains cautious, saying the reported trend should be interpreted very cautiously. Jaein with the details.
China released a paper Monday containing detailed data on more than 44,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Aiming to get a better understanding about the age range of people affected, the severity of the disease, and the mortality rate. The report also shows the number of new cases appears to be on the decline. However, despite the seemingly positive report, the head of the WHO says it must be interpreted cautiously.
The data also appear to show a decline in new cases. This trend must be interpreted very cautiously. Trends can change as new populations are affected. It's too early to tell if this reported decline will continue. Every scenario is still on the table.
Asked whether the COVID-19 outbreak is a pandemic, the head of the WHO's emergencies program says people should be cautious using the word pandemic, as it could spark fear throughout the world.
So therefore, I think we have to be very, very careful not to drive fear in the world right now, and be very cautious in using the words you have used. We've said it, the risk is very high in China, it is high regionally, and it is high around the world. That is not the risk is high of a pandemic. The risk is high that the disease may spread further. And I think at face value, that is true.
The latest data provided by the Chinese government shows the number of new COVID-19 cases have fallen to their lowest level in 3 weeks. Since the start of the outbreak in late December, China has reported over 70,000 cases in total, including more than 1,700 deaths. 이승재, Arirang News.
The total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in South Korea now stands at 30. After 2 more cases were discovered over the weekend. Unlike the first 28 cases, it's unclear how the elderly couple contracted the virus, as they don't have a recent history of overseas travel or contact with previously confirmed patients. As a result, health authorities are looking into the possibility of community transmission. Oh Jung-hee has this report.
South Korea reported 2 additional cases of the novel coronavirus over the weekend, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 30. The 29th patient is an 82-year-old South Korean man, the oldest confirmed patient in the country so far. And the 30th patient, his 68-year-old wife. On Saturday, the male patient visited Korea University Annam Hospital because of a chest pain. There, doctors found symptoms of pneumonia, so they ran a coronavirus checkup, to which he tested positive. He went into quarantine at Seoul National University Hospital early on Sunday. Soon after, his wife was also confirmed with coronavirus and isolated at the same hospital. Since then, Korea University Annam Hospital has closed its emergency room. A total of 76 people, both the medical staff and the patients there, who came into contact with the confirmed patients have been quarantined as well. A point of concern here is that it is not clear how the couple became infected with the virus. They've not been overseas since December, and they had no contact with the previous 28 patients. This shows that South Korea now needs to be on alert over possible community transmissions.
Patients come into contact with others at places they visit, and this causes second and third infections, and the virus spreads like that. We'll be able to find out about these patients after an investigation, but I believe they could have been infected like that.
Up until now, South Korea has seen no deaths from the coronavirus, and 9 out of the 30 confirmed cases have been released from quarantine after making full recoveries. To prevent the further spread of the virus, the government is to run tests for the virus on all pneumonia patients across the country. Those who have not traveled abroad can also be tested. By the end of the month, 10,000 people can be tested in a day, a rise from the current 5,000. 오정희, Arirang News.
The World Trade Organization says global merchandise trade growth is likely to remain weak in early 2020 due to the coronavirus outbreak. According to the WTO Trade Goods Barometer released on Monday, the real-time measure of trade trends stands at 95.5, which is well below the index's baseline value of 100. The WTO said the performance could be reduced further by COVID-19. It added that the barometer will be influenced by the economic impact of the virus and the effectiveness of efforts to contain the outbreak. China accounts for almost a fifth of global GDP. So naturally, there are growing concerns over COVID-19's impact on the global economy. To find out the extent and duration of the damage, our Kim Da-mi talked to some experts. So here's the first installment of our special 3-part series.
China has set an ambitious 6% GDP growth target for 2020, but the coronavirus will make it hard to reach that goal. The virus is expected to have a bigger impact than the SARS outbreak in 2003, which killed 800 people worldwide and shaved almost 1% off China's growth.
When compared with the SARS crisis, the economic impact from the coronavirus outbreak will be sharper and deeper. China's economy has grown 4 times bigger since then, making up almost 18% of the global economy.
And it's not just China's problem. China has grown faster than any major economy to become the world's second biggest by GDP. And as China is a key part of a range of global supply chains, the outbreak will have a knock-on effect worldwide, with those countries more reliant on China feeling even more of an impact. The world's biggest smartphone chipmaker Qualcomm cautioned that the outbreak was causing significant uncertainty over demand for smartphones, as well as the supplies needed to produce them. The travel and tourism industry is also among the most vulnerable. Nearly 6 million people from China visited South Korea last year, but data shows that the country could lose a large number of those tourists. Moody's has lowered SARS GDP growth forecast once again from 2.1 to 1.9%. Singapore's trade ministry on Monday also cut its GDP forecast for this year due to the outbreak. But with major businesses across China gradually resuming operation, some believe in a V-shaped impact like the SARS crisis.
In other words, sharp decline in economic activities in China, followed by rapid recovery. and a total impact on China relatively contained, therefore impact on the world economy also contained.
A rebound after a short, sharp economic shock is possible under certain circumstances.
Major businesses and factories across China need to resume operation under the Chinese government's systematic economic policies and containment measures. Most importantly, the spread of the virus needs to stop.
The IMF chief has also warned that the coronavirus outbreak could drag down the global economy. And with uncertainties over the situation in China, G20 finance ministers and central bankers will gather in Saudi Arabia this week to discuss the possible cost of the outbreak. Kim Da-mi, Arirang News.
President Moon Jaein is holding a cabinet meeting as we speak to discuss South Korea's quarantine measures against the coronavirus outbreak. He's expected to call for full efforts to tackle the virus until the very end and again relay a message to the public that there's no need for overblown fear and concern. President Moon will also call for emergency measures to overcome the dampened economic sentiment in South Korea caused by the outbreak. And President Moon was briefed on Monday on his administration's key economic policies for 2020 as the government aims to keep the recovery momentum going. Despite the threats posed by the coronavirus outbreak, he demanded officials do their utmost to keep the economy ticking over while ensuring the safety of citizens. Kim Min-ji reports.
President Moon Jae-in says it's time for total efforts to revive the economy amid fears of a contraction due to the coronavirus outbreak. He received briefings Monday from 4 government bodies, including the Ministries of Finance and Trade, on economic policies for 2020. Moon called for concrete changes this year, saying that COVID-19 is weighing on the economy.
국내의 소비 활동과 여가 활동까지 과도하게 부풀려진 공포와 불안 때문에 지나치게 위축된 측면이 있습니다. 이제는 국민의 안전을 지키는 한편 경제 활력을 되살리는 데 전력을 기울여야 할 때입니다.
Moon also called for efforts for mutual prosperity, one of the key agendas the government has pushed for to achieve inclusive growth. He noted that small businesses are suffering from high rent amid the economic slowdown. Citing the example of landlords temporarily lowering rent voluntarily for shops in Jeonju Hanok Village, the president expressed hope that such campaigns are able to spread nationwide.
범정부적인 강력한 지원과 함께 상가 임대인과 임차인 사이에서도 상생의 노력이 함께 펼쳐지기를 바람하지 않습니다.
President Moon also praised efforts to deal with export restrictions imposed last year by Japan, adding that it was a chance for South Korea to boost its competitiveness by developing homegrown materials and parts. It was an example, he said, of turning crisis into opportunity, noting that it was made possible by unity among the government, companies, and the people.
대중소기업, 수요기업과 공급기업 간의 상생협력과 범부처적인 협업의 경험은 앞으로도 우리가 유사한 문제를 해결해 나가는 데 있어서 좋은 교훈이 될 것입니다.
Moon also reassured the public that they can resume their daily lives as usual, calling for trust in the quarantine efforts of the government as officials are doing their best. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The South Korean government is readying measures to stem the economic fallout caused by the coronavirus. In a report delivered to the president on Monday, the nation's finance chief said the measures that will be announced by the end of February will include funds to support exports, consumption and investment. The finance minister called on people to go on with their economic activities as normal, saying excessive fear could hurt the economy. The ministry also said it will provide around $250 million of emergency loans to budget airlines and $50 million to support the shipping industry. The ministry previously announced it would provide $1.7 billion worth of support to small businesses that are likely to take a hit from the outbreak. The floor leader of the ruling Democratic Party of Korea, Yong, is set to deliver a speech at the National Assembly soon. Focused on public welfare, he is expected to call on opposition parties to work together to overcome the coronavirus outbreak. In particular, he's expected to stress the need to pass 3 bills related to tackling infectious diseases before this month's provisional session ends. It is the National Assembly's final session before the April 15th general elections. Now, despite 7 months passing since Tokyo first imposed trade curbs against Seoul, a boycott of Japanese products rumbles on here in South Korea. According to data from the Korea Customs Service, the amount of consumer goods imported from Japan stood at just $190 million last month, a 36% drop on year. Imports of Japanese beer plummeted 98% on year, which was a 45% drop from the previous month. Imports of Japanese vehicles also dropped by nearly 70% on year. South Korea and the United States have not yet reached an agreement on defense cost sharing, failing to meet the December 31st deadline for the renegotiation of the current Special Measures Agreement, as it's known. As a result, experts said the allies must agree within this week on a schedule to meet again. If they fail to do so, experts say the political pressure on Seoul and Washington will just continue to mount and mount. Kim Hyo-sun reports.
Experts point to 2 possible scenarios behind the delay in the defense cost-sharing negotiations between Seoul and Washington. First, there could be no room for compromise as the allies have unyielding views. Second, there is a possibility that the technical negotiations are done with only the political determination of the 2 leaders left. The fact the top diplomats of South Korea and the U.S. said last week, as they met in Germany, that they agreed to continue efforts to smoothly address alliance issues, such as defense cost sharing, implies the second scenario is more likely. Experts believe President Trump could ask South Korea to pay around $800 million, significantly lower than the $5 billion he originally proposed. And it looks like President Moon Jae-in is considering presenting a political gift to the American leader, while insisting there could not be a significant hike in the amount Seoul shoulders for the stationing of over 28,000 American troops in the country. This is highly likely as President Trump's diplomatic support is essential for President Moon to achieve his goal of establishing permanent peace on the Korean Peninsula and North Korea's denuclearization. This week is another crucial one for the allies as they must agree on future schedules to meet for defense cost-sharing negotiations. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
The UAE has granted an operating license to a nuclear reactor built by South Korean companies, according to the Gulf States Federal Authority for Nuclear Regulation on Monday. Permission was granted for the reactor to begin operations at the Barakah nuclear power plant once tests are complete. The UAE's permanent representative to the IAEA referred to this as a historic moment. The UAE will be the first country in the region to operate a nuclear reactor. Shifting gears to some health-related news now. When the eye's outer cornea is damaged, it can affect a person's sight and even, in the worst-case scenario, lead to blindness. And because such transplants come with their own set of risks, researchers here in South Korea are working to develop an artificial cornea. Park Se-young with the details.
This man is suffering from cornea damage caused by the side effect of medication. He has received 3 sets of transplants but was unable to regain his eyesight due to organ rejection. Rejection occurs in about 36% of people within 5 years of a corneal transplant. The possibility of rejection increases in young patients and those who need multiple procedures because new blood vessels grow in the cornea.
Blood vessel growth comes with inflammatory cells and tends to cause rejection. And the damaged eye surface can't generate tears, so transplants are quickly destroyed.
This is why a Korean research team has created an artificial cornea using synthetic polymers. Unlike a donor cornea, the immune system doesn't recognize it as foreign or try to eliminate it. And because it can be mass-produced, the long wait for donors is no longer necessary. The artificial cornea has proved safe and effective in vision recovery during testing on animals. Clinical trials are set to take place later this year. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Now, a shocking document has been released showing how China is surveilling every habit of minorities in its far west Xinjiang province. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Yoon Jung-min. Jung-min, give us the details.
So, Mark, human rights issues in Xinjiang province have always been a sensitive issue for the Chinese government. This time, the BBC has unveiled a document which shows how Beijing is trying to determine the way the Muslim Uyghurs live through internment camps. Citing Dr. Adrian Zenz, who has been tracking the Uyghur issue, the BBC has released the so-called Karakex list. It contains personal details of more than 3,000 people living in Xinjiang. Most of it includes details from Karakex County, where more than 90% of the population is Uyghur. The document has the most intimate aspects of their daily lives, such as how often they pray, how they dress, whom they contact, or how their family members behave. Zenz says it's a strong evidence Beijing is actively persecuting them and punishing their religious beliefs. China, however, denies any wrongdoing, saying it's necessary to combat terrorism and religious extremism. The CIA reportedly had knowledge about atrocities committed by South American dictators some 5 decades ago. A Washington Post report said that the CIA owned Swiss Crypto AG as part of their operation with West German intelligence for decades. It said the agency supplied the communications gear to some South American regimes in the late 1970s, during which they brutally cracked down on dissidents. The report said Argentina, Chile, and other countries used encryption machines from Swiss Crypto AG to establish a secret communications network for their murderous campaigns. Well over half of voters in Japan are against the idea of dumping radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the ocean. In a survey conducted by the Japanese daily Yomiuri Shimbun last weekend, 59% of 1,073 respondents opposed the idea. Only 27% were in favor. The nuclear plant operator TEPCO has been storing contaminated water in tanks on site, but it predicts storage space will run out by 2022.
Good morning. If you remember, just a week ago, we had the mildest day of the season, late March-like temperatures. But now it feels like we are back in the grips of midwinter. This morning, even Busan saw a low of minus 4.5 degrees Celsius, and the lows in most regions were nearly 5 degrees lower than the season norms. Meanwhile, parts of Gangwon-do and Gyeonggi-do provinces are still under cold wave advisories. Good news is that this brief cold snap will ease a touch starting this afternoon. Then spring warmth will make a comeback with highs hovering at about 10 degrees Celsius for here in the capital. But this afternoon, Seoul will get up to 4 degrees Celsius. That's about 4 degrees higher than yesterday though, and most regions will also see highs that are 3 to 6 degrees higher than yesterday. There will not be a severe cold snap for the next few days, though do expect temperature fluctuations from sub-zero morning lows to double-digit afternoon highs, and we are expecting nationwide rain on Friday and Saturday. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all the news and weather we have for now on this Tuesday morning here in Seoul, South Korea. Please make sure you stay tuned to Arirang TV. Plenty more coming up, including our next newscast at noon Korea time. So until then, goodbye.